Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to IRX. In today's webinar, we'll be examining the buzzword agility and how you can be agile in today's commerce landscape. The webinar is brought to you in partnership with Shopify. I'm sure you all know who Shopify is, but just in case you're not 100% sure, let me give you a quick update. Shopify is a leading provider of essential internet infrastructure for commerce, offering trusted tools to start, grow, and market and manage a retail business of any size. Shopify makes commerce better for everyone with a platform and services that are engineered for reliability while delivering a better shopping experience for consumers everywhere. Shopify powers millions of businesses in more than 175 countries and is trusted by brands such as Allbirds, Gymshark, French Connection, and many more. So now on to the webinar. I'm delighted to introduce to you our two panelists. Firstly, Seb Villien is the e-commerce director at French Connection. He has many years of experience working in e-commerce roles for a number of high street retailers such as White Stuff and Fatface. We're really looking forward to learning from his knowledge and insights today. Also joining us is Matthias Cleven, sales manager for Shopify. Within his role, Matthias enables the Shopify sales team to offer the best merchant experience and grow within their careers. Now, before I hand over to Matthias, just a little bit of housekeeping. We had an overwhelming number of questions submitted in advance, so I apologise now if we don't get around to answering them all. Feel free to submit any other questions as the session runs, and we will try to answer them depending on our time. It might be that we need to go back to you later. There are a couple of Shopify representatives online as we speak, and you can chat with them as the session progresses. Just click on the chat icon in the bottom of the screen. So on that note, I won't take up any more of your time. Matthias, over to you.
Thanks, Louise. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming today. Very excited for the conversation. And Seb, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, really looking forward to our conversation today. And on a slight personal note, I might have mentioned, but I actually, when I moved to the UK back in 2001 initially, my dad, he was traveling a lot for work, and one of the first t-shirts he ever brought back for my brother before he moved was a French Connection shirt, because he noticed that the FC UK brand was all over. So in a small way, this is kind of coming full circle on a brand that I've admired from afar from a long time. So very much looking forward to learning more.
Cool, exciting.
Awesome. So like we mentioned today, the goal of the conversation, I think, is kind of unbuzzing the word agility and what it really means. And as Luis had mentioned in your intro, you've been in the industry for quite some time now. You've worked with a lot of large high street retailers who have all used different platforms. And through your experience now, I think my first question is, I'm wondering, what did agility look like in those previous companies versus what do you think it looks like now?
It's a good question. I think if we go back, quite a few years ago, it became key, like, let's be agile, as teams, let's do things better. And I think at that point, for me, it was probably being agile was being able to do stuff. Because, if I take myself back, pre-2010, and it was kind of nearly impossible to do anything because it has to touch IT, and I was like awful, and nothing would ever happen, and it would take years, and blah blah blah. So it was kind of more, okay, we need e-commerce to just be able to do stuff, and that was being agile. It's like, okay, you know what, we can actually deliver some things. What's today is still obviously doing stuff. I think it's doing stuff fast, and it is obviously not acceptable to be like, computer says no, and we can't do that. So we have obviously come in leaps and bounds on being able to deliver things, but it's really, the agility comes with the speed at which we can deliver things, and that is probably both in equal measures, the tech and the people, the ability to deliver new functionality, but the ability to use it, the ability to be trained, the ability to to master that new tech and use it efficiently. That's the big difference in being able to do stuff fast and being agile in that way, as opposed to just delivering something new, which again, that was kind of being agile, being able to do something without months of integration work, which in today's world, it's probably not enough to just deliver something.
Yeah, I think you hit I think a really important part of the word agility is it does mean a lot of things. It does mean getting things done. I think you're right. It does mean getting things done more efficiently now. And normally that means faster, but also you kind of touched on and is around like getting a team up to speed with things, because all of these factors come into play when I think we use that word. So if we think about maybe kind of leaning into your experience again, you mentioned that speed now, I think, is a big part of agility. From your experience, was there a time or is there something that, from your career, you remember where you felt like your team wasn't able to be agile in the sense of speed per se, because of the tech stack that you had in place?
I think it's probably not fair to say that the team was not being able to be agile, because we actually managed to do stuff, but it was at the cost of a lot of effort. And the specific example I can think of is during the pandemic, obviously everyone realized we should have buy now pay later. The product had been around already. Then it became apparent that everyone is going to face some financial difficulties. We must have this on the site. And at the time, I was at White Stuff, and the platform, we were on the enterprise platform, and adding a payment method was not easy. We still identified that we should be offering that to for our customers, and we managed to do it, but it was quite open heart surgery. We had to do a lot of integration work. We had to dedicate a lot of resources to be able to get that over the line in quite a short amount of time, considering all the implication that had. So if I look at what we're doing now here at French Connection on Shopify, adding new payment methods is quite easy because everything is pre-set up. We've got connectors and everything is already, the hard work has kind of been done. That is a big difference to having to integrate a payment method from scratch versus just being able to more or less switch it on and just pass a few bits for reconciliation. But it's a lot less onerous on the implementation side of things.
Yeah, I think it's a big difference probably. Looking at specific SaaS providers, but maybe with Shopify as well as, with other platforms, it's they're highly capable. As you mentioned, you can really do anything. It sometimes though is a difference of, do you need to build the infrastructure, or is the infrastructure kind of already built for you? And that obviously, depending on the scenario that you're in, when it comes to speed and things and resource, getting those things done can be they're very different in how they will be, how the end goal will get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think, alongside that is what are the implications for the team post the delivering that project. So, again, if we think of the UI, how people can use the tools with the setup we've got in Shopify. Everything is fairly intuitive, which means yet another payment method is it's going to be found in the same place, it's going to reconcile it the same way, it's going to be the same flow for the orders, all of that stuff. Whilst when you bolt on and have to do a lot more integration work, it sometimes means that in the background there are different processes that have to be put in place. The teams have to do things differently, and we're talking here about payment methods, but that applies across the board. And for stuff that is a bit more front end and user experience, it can mean having to really become familiar with doing things in a totally different way, as opposed to using the same UI as that, and just having a new option in there, or something new being made available to you.
Yeah. I think it's very true. I'm sure we all know this, but just because something on the front end may seem simple to do, it could have very big ramifications potentially on what's happening on the back end of the business.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And I guess you go one good example of that. If I look back a few months ago, we were looking at the type of things that we needed pre-peak, and some of the challenges that we were facing, and what would make the biggest difference, and just your normal kind of peak readiness approach. And one thing that we identified would be quite valuable would be to be able to take pre-orders from customers. We knew that we had some key lines that were being delayed slightly, that we wanted to launch a little bit earlier than they would physically be there by, so that became okay. Let's try and deliver that. That will make a difference. And that is a great example of something that, on the front end, you go onto a website, and instead of clicking buy now, it just says, oh, this will be shipped in 1 week. It doesn't seem that complex, but it obviously has, quite a lot of ramifications, because once that order goes through the checkout, it has to sit somewhere in a holding pattern. It can't just go to your warehouse. The stock has to be allocated to it. When the stock actually physically comes in, you need to deliver all of this first, and all of that. The payment, it has to be taken at the point of order. So it's actually, quite a big project, although it just looks like it's another little option on the product page. And that was, again, like a great example of just, using one app that is available on the App Store. And a lot of the heavy lifting is made by the vendors that are available on there. We engage with the vendor, agree on what we want to do. The technical heavy lifting is done by them. We add that to our theme, and then it goes live. And it's frankly, one of the fastest project that I've ever overseen. Especially bearing in mind that it is more than a little bit of social proofing, or things that are more light touch to implement. So that was really where I thought that the benefit, and back to the agility point and the speed, the benefit of being on the platform that allows you to do that, because it's already has all these connection and these the APIs and the ecosystem being open to vendors, and all of that is already done. So you're kind of halfway implementing it onto your own shop. So that's where I really kind of saw the benefit of being on the platform that allows you to do that, because you can very quickly implement something that's, if I take myself back to times where I was on a less flexible platform, would have been much harder and definitely a much bigger project to put in place.
Yeah, and the way you explain that too, and like we mentioned, is there might be an aspect of this that is quite simple to use, which is the app, and get that all done, which is incredible. But obviously, if that didn't exist, the complexity would sit in all the different places that you mentioned. And ultimately, tech might not solve everything, where it can solve everything you just touched on, from the front end to the fulfillment to return. I mean, so many different things, to payments. But hopefully, if it allows you to have less burden on something that normally would take a lot of time, then you can just focus your efforts on the parts of the business that you really can control, like your fulfillment, like your order processing, and those things. So if you remember, if you remember, how long did that project kind of take you roughly from kind of conception to acting on it?
I mean, it was all done within less than a month, which it was really quite fast. You know, by the end of the summer, we kind of agreed, you know, commercials and things, and then we kicked off, and it was implemented by the end of September. It was really yeah, surprisingly fast, and again, like for me, that was the kind of, you know, key moment of like, yes, you know, there is a real benefit in, you know, you obviously you use the platform and it's like, yeah, it's good, it's stable, it's, you know, you can see how, you know, how things work, like great. But then when you see it, you know, in the flesh, that okay, you know, I actually managed to get, you know, from A to B, and in this case it's probably, you know, A to F. It's quite a bit of a journey in a short period of time. That's really where, yeah, for me, it kind of takes, you know, all of its meaning, that that agility and that ability to do stuff fast really comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah, could not agree more. Well, we've kind of, I guess, jumped a little bit into your time on Shopify, and if it's all right, I wanted to maybe just jump back for a brief second, because obviously with any before Shopify, there was you know, French Connection was on a different platform, and before any replatforming project, you're on something else. And I think one thing that we've seen kind of in the market consideration is like just striving on getting the best ROI, really businesses being very conscious of their TCO and really where they can invest is becoming really key. And in this environment too, businesses still need to grow, but they need to do so in a very thoughtful manner. So I was kind of curious, you know, what steps did your team take to kind of de-risk such a big change when you were migrating to Shopify Plus, and how did that journey look like?
Yeah, so I think if we kind of start with, you know, French Connection is, you know, British Brown has been around quite a while. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. So with that, you know, comes quite a lot of baggage. There's, you know, the fact that, you know, how we represent the brand, how the brand is known by our customers, you know, that's really important. Sorry. You know, the fact that we are design-led brand, and therefore, you know, our product presentation and our creative treatment is really key, and then we need to make sure that we maintain that. So that's, you know, one component. And then, you know, from the kind of insider side of things, the other aspect of being 50 is that obviously we're sat on legacy systems, you know, left, right, and center. Things have been bolted on as time has gone, which is, you know, what most retailers face, you know, to a degree or another. So bearing, you know, the two elements in mind, it was really about okay, what you know, what is important? So, you know, in terms of the scope of the replatforming, you know, gathering requirements, and you know, what are the things that we want to do. Obviously, as part of that, there's always an appetite to refresh slightly, and you know, make sure that we're happy with the web design, review the UX, implement best practice, you know, all of that stuff. So that was kind of one part of the project. There was obviously a big motivation was, you know, getting onto a platform that would be stable. There would be no outages when it's a big, you know, sale period. There would be no, you know, servers going offline, or, you know, all these lovely things that, you know, old systems make you, you know, have to jump through. And then what is it going to give as trading tool to the teams? You know, how will we be able to use the new platform to trade effectively, you know, and, you know, make better commercial decisions overall. So I think all of these aspects were taken into account, and obviously the stability point, you know, that's just the point of moving onto a new platform. So we've got that. The design element, very important, and that was definitely a key part of the project. And that flexibility, this is where a lot of work went through, developing themes that would allow to cover all sorts of different scenarios, and really give the team the flexibility to do different things, but also to represent the brand in the way they want to, and that creatively, give that flexibility as well. So what was not right for the brand was to have a very rigid approach, and that definitely does what did not happen. So it would have been right to to just be delivering a couple of templates, and this is what it has to be. We kind of made sure that the team had the flexibility to do things differently, for launch and foreseeable future, but also kind of the longer run, so we don't keep revisiting things. And what we're now able to do is use all of these different templates that have been created and deliver different experiences. We have 3 sites for the UK, Europe, and US, and testing the use of different things in different markets gives us good flexibility, but also good opportunity to try the different things and see how it responds, and then replicate, sometimes see that actually what works in one market doesn't work in another, and keep repeating that process.
Yeah, there's lots of little nuances within markets that sometimes you wouldn't think are a thing, but they are. That could be a whole other conversation in of itself. And I think you touched on another really important part, and it's something that sometimes I think is viewed about Shopify, is that it can be quite a rigid platform. And to some extent, if you want it to be, it can. But at the same time, it does not have to be. And so I believe when you were going through the migration and the scoping, you worked with one of our partners, Velstar, as well. And they really helped, I think, mold and build things for your team, like you mentioned, that are going to fit the brand and allow your teams to, once it's built, really make use of it, but follow the branding, the imagery that's most important to you. So it's always good to hear directly, from a merchant, especially of your size, it's fashion brand forward, that they're not feeling like the platform is making you feel rigid by any means.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, that was definitely a big part of the scope and the deliverables from the project. And we are definitely seeing the benefit of that, that upfront work that has gone in, because now we've got, plenty of tools in the box to approach things differently and give a different look and feel for different time periods, promotions, or anything that we want to convey. And again, as always, the creative teams would like something slightly different. Sometimes it's only 2 pixels off, but it's something different. And we are able to create these new templates, and deliver something that we might not have without that much technical effort required. So again, back to being agile and being fast, it's fairly easy to add something that we don't necessarily have already.
Yeah. Amazing. So I think, it's great to hear some of these examples. So we know kind of the historical past now where French Connection was. You've migrated onto Shopify Plus, which is fantastic. You've touched on some, I think, really actionable or real examples already of the pre-order. Was curious, because I think a lot of people probably want to hear this, is again, unbuzzing the word agility. So pre-orders is a great example. Have there been any other aspects of the platform that you've noticed maybe your team works differently, or as a lead, you feel like you're able to work faster or be, quicker to make decisions, for example?
I think the UI was a really big thing. I was really pleasantly surprised at how intuitive it was. to get into the back end of the website and manage the templates, the content, and anything UX and front end related. So having that means that there's limited training. It's fairly self-explanatory. If you've got a trades person who needs a bit of help, your email person can go in and do stuff, visual merchandising, boosting products, that kind of things. It's really, really easy to just have different people coming in and doing different things, and that really helps with that agility as well, in terms of the team structure and keeping things a bit more fluid. Whilst in the past I might have had very rigid teams where you're kind of an expert in your ESP, but these guys barely have a login to the web platform or don't really know their way around it. Whilst here it is fairly easy to have people should be in and out, and again, when we've got new starters, it's quite simple and easy to use. Not to mention that a lot of people might have used the platform already in other places. So that kind of again helps with speeding up getting full potential of what the team can deliver, with limited time spent on just getting the head around how things work.
Yeah, I think it's a really important call out too, because you can hire some of the most capable people in the world within your team, and they might have great ideas of what they want to do. However, depending on, it could be the team structure, or in this case of our conversation, the technology, if they're not sure how they're supposed to do it, then it's really hard to enable them. So I think in a world, and we're getting there, but I think it's really important that technology really just enables people to do things in a pretty seamless way, instead of slowing it down. And just on that note of training as well, just from your past, what was it like with kind of other platforms? Was there quite a lot of training that you would need to go through if somebody onboarded? And I guess when you compare to it now, because it does sound like that is one aspect that stands out to you as being quite easy on Shopify, but curious as to what it was like in previous roles.
Yeah, I mean, definitely had a few platforms in previous roles where it's much harder to blag your way around and then find where things live. So all makes sense once it's kind of explained to you, but not necessarily the most intuitive interface to use. I think with Shopify, one of the benefits is things are easily labeled. It's clear. You also have a lot of kind of WYSIWYG type things where again you can update content. A designer can do it. Your creative can do it. You don't necessarily need kind of that hybrids kind of junior web content production function, which is that little bit more specialist and kind of prevents other people to go in because there's a bit of code and that scares everyone. So just opening up to more kind of generalist skill sets to be able to make some changes also helps with delivering that. And that's definitely a difference to other platforms. I think for me it's that point, and it's just the if you don't know something, you can find it. It's organized in a logical way. You can find it. Whilst I've had kind of platforms where it was not the most logically kind of set up that you can expect, and it once you knew how to set up a promotion, it kind of makes sense. It's like, okay, you have to set it up in one place, and you have to set up a customer group, then you have to link the two, and then it will work. And it's like, okay, but you can kind of see that a developer has come up with this. There is a logic, but without knowing, you would think, okay, I've set them up promotion, it's fine. And it's like, oh no, it doesn't work because you haven't applied it to a group. It's like, oh, okay, I get that. So that's kind of an example, I guess, to illustrate that in Shopify is a lot easier to you kind of do all of these things in one place, and therefore it's like, okay, what do I want my promotion to be? What does it apply to? What's the reward? Who is it for? Save. Okay, so that's kind of where you do your promo.
Yeah. And I think that's it. To your point, on a previous platform thing, there's always logic there. It's not illogical, I think, and there's always method to the madness, but sometimes it's not as straightforward, or depending on the individual using the platform, they just don't intuitively view it that way. And I think that's one thing that's a bit different, is kind of considering, I think the UI that has been developed on Shopify is very much for e-commerce teams, for merchandisers, for marketers, in the case of kind of the day-to-day management. And I think that, like, to your point, it's really important to be able to figure that out. And as people onboard, they can make decisions quicker. They can come to you with ideas and they can implement them faster, it seems, based on that, instead of having to wait to be trained and onboarded.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Like in most platforms, you can't really break anything until you really get there. So, there's like the themes, the production environment, all of that stuff. But I think depending on the UI, it feels more like, oh, if I press this, will I not break something? And I think that also prevents, the kind of less technical teams to get involved in doing stuff, because it's all a little bit scary. Whilst just the fact that the UI is a little bit easier, it inevitably kind of help with engaging teams to do stuff, because it's like, that doesn't feel scary, because it just looks like UI that I'm used to. Whether it's on my own mobile phone or anything that I use elsewhere. So it's also kind of a softer metric, but helping more people to do more things, because it doesn't look scary, it doesn't look foreign. So I'll have a go. It's something that I can try.
Yeah, it's an important thing to call out, because it's not going to be the end all be all decision of why you'll look at a platform. But I think it's something that a lot of times, because it's so seamless in certain ways, you don't think about it. However, that probably is the call out, actually, is that you don't really have to think about it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So one thing recently, Shopify actually conducted a global research study and revealed that shoppers are starting to consider, they're being more conscious, and they're much more connected. So they're looking for quality that lasts, they won't compromise on sustainability, and they're ready to connect with brands in store, online, and really everywhere in between. Many of these things, I'm sure that you probably know. And given the fashion industry, I mean, it has kind of come under the lens at certain times to sustainability. I was curious to learn what French Connection's been doing to help drive this, and kind of also, I believe you're adopting a bit of the circular fashion economy, but I wanted to hear a bit more from you on this.
Yeah, no, I mean, our Conscious Connection program is, really important to us. Like, most fashion retailers, we are, taking steps towards, being more sustainable in the way we produce and sell our clothes. More and more of our garments have sustainable sources in them, recycled fabric, organic cotton, and all of this type of things. It is something that we continuously ensure that we grow as part of our collections. We also look at how to be sustainable across everything we do. So our outer packaging, being fully recyclable, is another initiative that we've put in place, and we really try and look through from garment production to the way customers can interact with us. How can we make sure we do everything we can to be as sustainable as possible? And one initiative as part of that was earlier this year to launch our French Connection rental, which is powered through a third party, and giving the ability to customers to rent some of our garments for a few days, up to a couple of weeks, and obviously a fraction of the cost compared to buying them, the ability to enjoy things on a much higher rotation for kind of the more out there, but also helping people avoid waste when we sell a lot of occasion wear, and now is party season, it's a big thing for us, but we know that some customers might just want the one item for the one occasion, and actually renting it makes more sense to them. So we wanted to offer something else to our customers, and really as part of our multi-channel offering, give people another way to interact with the brand. In the same way as you can go in store, you can buy online, you interact with us on social, and it's like you might want to rent something for that one-off, and there's other items that you buy from us because you like our denim fit or whatever it might be, but that one item is actually fine to have just as a one-off. So we wanted to improve our customer experience and the overall proposition, and it just made sense to embrace that circular fashion, because it is becoming more and more important. I think as a retailer, for us to take responsibility, and for customers to have the ability to have a lower impact in their own consumption if they want to, but also as we're facing more economic challenges, the ability to enjoy the chance to wear something new without having to buy it, especially if it's for limited use. And we know that people are being more considerate with how they allocate their spend, so that is also something that we wanted to make sure we were offering as part of our position, because it wouldn't be necessarily the right thing to cut out some of our customers just on the proviso that they have to cut their spend, whilst with the rental proposition there is a chance to still being able to enjoy the garment.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible space to move into as a brand for both the customer experience, but also the sustainability side of things. And when I think of people even talking to my girlfriend, with the holiday season, like you mentioned, coming up, the amount of times that it's just like, I've had the same dresses, I want something new. But on the flip side, they go, I really don't want to invest a ton of money for something that I might only wear once or twice. This is a really great means for both potentially acquiring new customers, doing so in a sustainable way, and again, to the other point as well, giving another place for people to interact with the brand. It's a whole nother channel. So I think overall, it's very exciting to kind of see where that side of the business will go, and I expect will continue to grow.
Yeah, and that was really one of the motivations to for us to launch that. So we're really pleased that we've been able to have that offering added to what we do, and really going on that journey with our customers to offer that multi-channel, multi-touch point experience.
Yeah. Well, this has been amazing so far. I want to be cognizant of our time. And like we mentioned, had a lot of questions currently coming through in the chat. We've had as well a lot sent through before. So I thought might do kind of a a mix and match of some of those, if it's all right with you, Seb.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Perfect. So I'm looking at the list right now. So I guess one that came in that I was curious around it, and it's more specifically kind of to your business, but the question was, how do you manage your backlog and manage stakeholder expectations?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I mean, how we manage the backlog, I think fairly traditional, looking at high impact, low risk, low resource, low cost, and kind of prioritize in that way. But the stakeholder point, I think one thing to really address is that agility and having this flexible platform, does not mean free for all. And internal stakeholders could easily grasp to the idea that, oh, actually we can launch things in no time, and we can now the world is your oyster, you can do anything, and therefore let's just do anything. So there is actually quite a little bit of internal management and navigation of priorities, making sure that we align on what we want to spend our resource and effort on, and what's going to pay back the most, because this it can easily move to a view that's they can do it. It's the web team then has become this kind of superhero team in the corner that they can do anything, it's fine. So let's not look at exactly what is the payback or how much effort is required, or do we actually really need this, because that will just happen by itself. So the management there is still being disciplined as to, okay, well, why do we want this? What's the objective? And does it actually stack up for what we're going to use it for? And just kind of a traditional, steerco and clear communication. Okay, well, this is our roadmap. That's our bigger picture. This is where we are on the journey towards that. There is a small part of smaller projects that are more fluid. As part of this, we can only do X, Y, or Z, and that's the rationale as to why we're doing this or we're not doing that.
Makes complete sense. And I imagine, for just a real life example in the context we've been talking about, when the pre-order side of things came into the conversation, you probably had a backlog of many other things that could have been done quite quickly. But to your point, you still have kind of checks and balances and business reasons as to what will be prioritized before you actually then decide to deploy it.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think, at that point, timing was also key, because, you get to, midsummer, and it's kind of holiday season, people are in and out, and that, okay, we will have the month of September, then really we can cater for a little bit of delay, but that's it. Then by mid-October, that's the time we have. After that, we will not be deploying big things. So, what do we do in that period of time? Have we got time to take to the finish line this bigger piece that's we've got in the background? Have we got anything else that is super pressing and that we must have and that fits with our strategic objectives? Or is there something that is really missing that is going to move the dial and make a difference? And in this instance, it was kind of, okay, well, here's where we're at. Here are our deliveries. Here is our marketing calendar. We're going to need this. So actually, that is going to trump, some, nice to haves that we might have been, talking about around our Christmas campaigns and things like that.
Yeah. Next one I have, kind of leading into a little bit of the last one, stakeholder expectations, but also around agile, is the question states, business cultural change to agile. How do you approach and or champion this?
So I think that is kind of back to the, it is not a free for all. And it's again, sharing with the business, like that this is what we've managed to achieve so far. This is the way things now work, and therefore these are the things that we are able to do, and that is the new process of working within the ecom team in particular. A big advocate of a test and learn approach. We get together and add to the kind of ideation list. Here's something that I've seen on this website. Here's something that I think we should do. Here's something that our stats, point to that we should really address. And everyone chips in, and we prioritize, a short list. From that, we back it up with some data, and then move into, UX and building the tests. And then again, depending on what it is or what we want to achieve with that, we then decide to either split test a kind of conversion optimization way, or put it on a specific market, and you see what it does, or apply different approaches there. So it's because we have the ability to do some stuff more quickly and more easily. It gives everyone this way of thinking that we can also come up with an idea. We can try different things, and I encourage that within the team, and we then try and formalize that with a bit more of a process. So again, even within the team, so it's not free for all.
Yeah, I think, and to this point as well, just from my experience of working with merchants, depending on, because as you mentioned, Seb, depending on how long you've been a merchant for, a retailer, and depending how big your legacy systems are, it can be harder to do this, I think. But the key thing, though, that you can take away that you just mentioned, though, is still maybe find something small that you can move in a more agile way, and then build the business case around it, show what the impact has been to the business to change that. Because depending, it could be that maybe you feel your team's not agile at all, and it's really about, again, having kind of that proof case, testing something in a small way, and then being able to iterate on that. But I think if you're aspiring to push change within the business, doing that, and I would also probably say getting kind of top-down leadership, so individuals like yourself who can help then kind of push that change and explain that narrative throughout the business.
Yeah, I totally echo that, and as we try different things, again, is that communication piece, to kind of town hall scenarios, other parts of the business can hear about things that have been tried, what the results are. Some stuff we do just doesn't make much difference. Some stuff great success, and all of that is good, and encourages everyone to contribute to that ideation, and also be able to be confident in wanting to try something different, and engage with the product and with the brand to really take it further.
Yeah, great. I think we have time for probably about 2 more questions, and then I think we'll need to wrap up here. So to everyone, if we haven't got to them, we will follow up with you on some of these questions, because there's many good ones that came through. So one that I saw, kind of thinking about the customer journey, that I quite liked was, how do you greet your customers after post-purchase? And I want to lean on your experience too. This could be maybe directly from French Connection, but is there any other kind of unique ways you've done it in previous brands that you've worked with as well?
Yes, I mean, we have a series of triggered programs with different pieces of comms that we apply there. I think the post-purchase is an interesting one, because obviously there's a service element, and I've seen it before where you really invest in the accuracy of information that you give post-purchase, and that kind of tracker for the order, allow customers to know exactly what's happening with their dispatch and their parcel. And the success metric here is obviously a reduction in all your WISMO queries. But then the other aspect is also the engagement, especially for new customers, which obviously at that point we know who you are, and if it's your first purchase, it's a great opportunity to really engage with the brand and introduce you to the story and try and understand a bit more who you are. So the content that we put on there and testing the different elements for different groups, really allows us to get a better engagement there, and really move into that repeat purchase as quickly as possible. I guess the last point is around data collection. It's obviously also a good opportunity to get preferences, to get a little bit more info about who they are, which then will feed into okay, what kind of content do we need to serve to that customer, based on what they bought in that specific purchase, but also based on what they're telling you, because even the almighty Amazon can be a little bit limited at just talking to you about the latest Jacqueline Wilson book, because that's what you just bought your child. There is more that you might be interested in. So that data collection piece also helps navigate what to talk about, what else would be of interest to that specific customer, and increase the engagement.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing the same across the board too. And is that people, like we mentioned before, is that people really want to connect with the brand. So I think once someone has purchased from you, that last point is really key, is ask them questions, engage with your audience. And you might be surprised how many people really do want to actually give you feedback or context or a review, anything, I think, but it's important to try to work that into your follow-up flow. And then to your point, you can really use that to then offer an even greater experience for those different customer groups.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, customer reviews, been around a while, a great tool. And surprisingly, people are so open to share when there is not that much in it for them, really, to go through that effort. And I'm always, very pleasantly surprised as to, how much people are willing to share, the good and the bad, but more often the good than the bad, And I think originally, when reviews came out, and gosh, I remember, implementing that, 15 years ago, and the big fear was like, well, we're only going to have the complainers in there, and then, we should not show the bad review and all of that, which, obviously times have moved on. But people are just happy to share what a great product it is, and just say that, which is lovely to hear, and yeah, surprising that people are willing to share a bit of their time. So as a brand, then it's a great opportunity to engage at that point, because it's we trigger the conversation and they take part in it. So then it's how do we nurture that?
Yeah, completely agree. And I think it's another one of those things that it seems pretty self-explanatory, but sometimes just depending on bandwidth and things, it might be something that you don't implement. But I think that's another good call out. Definitely put that in. So time for one last question. And I think the one that I would be curious, and we kind of touched on it, but if we're going to end, I would like to end on one Shopify question, and one from the audiences is, and this could be from your experience, but what are the main benefits of transferring to Shopify from a custom website?
I guess, it's a good summary of the conversation, isn't it? Definitely the agility, the stability, it's a kind of tried and trusted platform, so performance is not a worry, and the flexibility, all the bits that we've talked about, the apps that are available, just allows you to, that once you've got the platform in place, you will be able to add, pretty much anything you might, think of, for a fairly limited amount of extra effort. The kind of other point is that because of the framework it sits within, users are, I think, maybe without realizing, but getting quite accustomed to the Shopify checkout, and that's definitely one of the strong parts, from a metrics point of view. The checkout conversion is really strong, and anyone who's a Shopify user can quickly spot if the website is on Shopify, because the checkout does look the same for everyone, which as a brand owner can feel a little bit restrictive at times, because there are things that you can't really change. But the UX has been tried and tested. A lot of work and effort has gone into that, and I think, because customers are used to that on many different websites, it means that they might come to your website as a new customer, but actually without maybe realizing it, the checkout feels quite familiar, and they progress through the funnel fairly easily. So to me, that's another of the benefits, is that crucial point, which really makes a big difference to your conversion, is a good one, and one that you can kind of rely on, which means you've got plenty of opportunity to put your own personality and effort into all the discoverability side of things, and the kind of brand enhancing, browsing and product finding side of the user experience.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of those points, and I think maybe just to add to it, and it is kind of summary of it, is really, when you're on a custom platform, whoever had asked this question, is the beauty of a custom platform, and Seb, you kind of echo this, is it can do anything you want, but getting things done, on the other hand, can mean a lot of different things, because there are a lot of different resources, dependabilities. So I think something like moving to a Shopify, what we hear from merchants like yourself and others is, the infrastructure is handled by Shopify, the scale is there. It's really your team can kind of focus on your customers and products, and not so much worry about the tech per se. So I think that is a great way to kind of summarize, but wanted to really thank you for your time today, Seb. It's great to hear more about where French Connection has been, where it's gone, and where it's going, and also just your experience with the platform based on kind of your career. So thank you again for your time today.
No, thank you.
Well, I'd just like to echo that, Matthias. Thank you very much to you as well for your time. And again, Seb, thank you to you. That's been really, really interesting. And I personally have learnt loads, and I'm sure our audience has too. I think the only thing to say now is just to remind everyone that IRX and EDX 2023 will take place on the 24th and 25th of May next year at the NEC. So registration will open in the spring. So just keep your eye out for those emails. But on that note, thank you very much, everyone. And everyone have a good rest of the afternoon and evening. Thank you.